Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Today we will briefly go over the loops of language teaching. This was an article that I wrote a few years back. Now, what are the four loops of language teaching? You can see we have the preparation loop, and then we have the input-output loop, the grammaring loop, and the discourse loop. Now, how do these loops interact with one another when we are teaching language? The first loop that we need to work on is the preparation loop. In the preparation loop, what you need to do is you select genres for teaching reading and listening. Reading and listening are the input skills. So you need to first gather different samples of a genre that you want to teach. For example, you want to teach description. So you need to collect samples of descriptive passages. If you want to teach story writing or stories themselves, the elements of the story, the background, the orientation, the characters, the setting, and the beginning and the middle and the end, the climax and the resolution of the problem and its climax, and then the resolution. So whatever you want to teach the children, you need to first select and gather several samples of that genre. Then what you need is to study that type of text thoroughly, whatever you have selected from the genre. So you read it thoroughly, and what do you need to do when you read? The first thing that you need to do is to develop a grammar packet. What type of grammar is used in that particular text? For example, in story writing, you will have the past tense, you will have the direct speech, you will have descriptive elements as well. So you will see that what kind of language is used. So mainly past tense is used in a story, and dialogues are used. Then you identify the generic stages. What are the different elements of a story? If it is a descriptive passage, how is it written? What are the stages of writing a description? If it is a compare and contrast essay, how do we go about writing it? What are the stages of such an essay? If you are writing an opinion essay, what stages do you go through? What is in the first paragraph? What is in the second paragraph? What is in the third paragraph? And so on. So you study it thoroughly to look for the generic stages and the type of language that is used in that particular text. Then you collect samples. So this is what I've already mentioned, that you collect samples of the genre and stick to one kind of text. So if you are looking at stories, so all the stories should fall under the same category. If you're talking about letters, so stick to one, all formal letters, or letter of complaints, all informal letters. So that the sample helps the children to write or to speak using that language that they have acquired. Then we go to the input-output loop. Now, this loop specifically works on reading and listening, which are the input skills or the receptive skills. You can see over here that in the first part we have input flood through reading and listening. So whatever genre you have selected, what you need to do is that you need to collect several samples of it, and you expose the children to those samples. So a lot of reading and a lot of listening is done with one kind of text. Then you enhance through processing exercises. So whatever exercise you do with the listening text or the reading text, they are meant to process the information and the language that is used in that particular text. Finally, you should go for output. The children should produce that kind of language that they have learned either in writing or in speaking. If they are writing something, two things should follow: peer checking and feedback on the written output. Now, this feedback can come from the peers or from the teacher. And the teacher should analyze the errors that the children have made, the mistakes that they have made, so that she or he can give them a mini grammar lesson the next day. So, language input is given through reading and listening. With that text, lot of processing exercises should be done. Then output should be ensured through writing or speaking, and when the children provide the output, two things can happen. The teacher should note down all the errors and mistakes, plus the peers should check and give feedback on the written output. On the basis of what the teacher has noted in their writing or in their speech, the teacher will give a mini lesson the next day, so that the grammatical errors that they are making, they are fixed and they are able to produce language correctly. After the feedback, the children should rewrite. After the mini grammar lesson, the children should rewrite. So whatever you are following, if you are following the peer checking, they should rewrite. And if you want them to wait till the next day and then you give the mini grammar lesson, then they should rewrite, so that whatever they write becomes better and better, and they also understand the process of writing. The next loop is the grammaring loop. When the learners are ready to receive the grammar input, the teacher takes them into this grammaring loop, and the teacher explicitly teaches the form. So she teaches the form to the children, explicitly telling them this is, for example, perfect tense, and this is how it is made. It has or have according to the subject, and then it has the third form of the verb. So you explicitly teach the form, and then you provide practice first in isolation, so that it is guided, it is supervised, and then you provide practice in context, so that the children can see how that piece of language fits into the big picture in the context. This is how it is you ensure that the form is linked with the function and the communicative purpose. You can give more practice in real life situations. So they emulate the real life situation and practice the grammar concept. So this is how you work in the grammaring loop. The next is the discourse loop. Now in this loop, what do? You highlight the generic stages of the genre, and you can take any one stage and help the children master that stage. For example, story beginnings. So there can be different kinds of beginnings. The stories can begin with a dialogue, with a description, with some action, so with a backflash. So you focus on one stage and then you help the children work through it, practice writing that particular stage of the text. And again, if you are working on the beginning of the stories, so you are going to give them input floods through several examples. They can go to the library and gather examples, or you bring the several examples to class And then they study and analyze and see that how many different kinds of story beginnings can be there. Provide practice in isolation. So first, what you can do is you can tell them to write that one particular stage that you are giving them practice in. So they just write the story beginnings, or they change the story beginnings of different stories that they have already read. So they practice only that stage. And then you help them to see that how it is used in context. So this is how you take them through one aspect at a time, give them practice with that aspect, then you go on to the next aspect. And this is how you teach them all the different stages of a particular text. That can be introduction, body, and ending, or it can be the story elements, beginning, orientation, introducing the characters, establishing the setting, and then the problem, how to introduce the problem, and then climax and resolution. So you can practice one thing at a time, and the children can work on that particular aspect thoroughly, and then finally they are all combined together and the children start writing stories. So this is how all the loops of language teaching fit together. That's all for today. See you next time with a new video. Jazakallah. Allah Hafiz.